Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 4. I can't believe we're already 4 modules in to this class. Time is flying by. So our topic this week is action research projects in published literature. And of course, you can access Module 4 by clicking on it from the homepage or directly from the menu bar on the left-hand side. So as you well know, you're currently learning a lot about action research in your TEL 706 course. So the idea of this week's content is to complement what you're learning there and again, focus more on what you should be paying attention to when reading action research studies, not designing them or conducting them yourself. So I'm guessing in TEL 706, you've already heard the background behind ASU's EDD program design and approach. But just as a Cliff Notes version, we rely on and have grounded our program in this idea of action research, which focuses on problems in a practice-based educational setting and identifying and studying potential solutions to those problems by partnering with practitioners, typically in a cyclical fashion. So that's different from traditional qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods research, which don't typically try to solve a problem and at the same time study the direct impact of that solution in a real world context, right? So oftentimes they'll be in a controlled lab or another natural setting without trying to implement some sort of intervention. But I'll leave my explanation there in the interest of not repeating what you're learning in your other course. But if you want to talk more or have more questions about this idea of action research, please let me know and I'm happy to set up a time on Zoom or what have you, because this is an important sort of foundational concept as you're learning now in ASU's EDD program. Anyways, okay, so again, our topic this week, action research and published literature. So this module includes several readings and also several videos about action research studies. My suggestion this week, unlike the previous weeks, is just do the readings, then watch the videos. The order isn't super important. And actually the content's pretty light because your assignment is heavier during this module. So chapter 13 in your textbook, basically the first part is probably going to be kind of redundant to what you've already learned in 706. So from the start, like page 430 is where the chapter starts. That through page 442 mostly provides an overview of the action research paradigm itself. And I'm assuming you probably know a lot about that content already. But the most important part of that chapter, I'm going to tell you, is just page 443 through 447. It's a really great discussion of how to analyze and critique published action research studies. And there's a really nice table there that has a summary of what quality looks like in the context of action research. And that's what we really want you to take away from this class. More about what high quality studies and signals of high quality or lesser quality studies are when you're reviewing them yourself in the literature. So I encourage you to bookmark that, not only for analyzing other people's studies, but it's also good in terms of thinking about in the future how you'll design a high quality project yourself. And so that's the first chapter 13. And again, as I said, really, I encourage you especially to focus on just page 443 through 447 especially. And then the second article really complements and sort of moves past or addresses a lot of the issues that are alluded to in the textbook. So this article is pretty short and it's from the editor of a journal titled Action Research. Actually, it's linked to down here. So as you can see right here. So the editor wrote this kind of outlining dimensions of quality or trustworthiness in action research studies. So again, that complements what I want you to especially pay attention to in the textbook chapter in terms of really thinking about how to identify the strengths and weaknesses of different published action research studies. And trust me, just because something is published does not mean it's perfect. This is true for action research, quantitative research, qualitative research, mixed methods research, whatever. So really be attentive to, again, not just what like a good quality study looks like in this paradigm, but then also some limitations or weaknesses that you might encounter. Okay, and also mostly this week, so those are your 2 assigned readings. I have added myself an optional link to my very favorite example of action research in the higher education context. And it happens to have originated very close to all of you. at the University of Southern California. So it's called the Equity Scorecard, and I've linked to their website themselves here, as well as an article about it. So essentially, these researchers at USC, a number of years ago, designed a participatory action research process, where they go to campuses and they convene faculty and staff who directly work with students in key positions like admissions, transfer coordinators, diversity officers, etc. And so the USC team and their team from whatever campus they're working on works with institutional research experts to collect statistics related to student outcomes. And then they disaggregate those by demographic groups, usually particularly race and ethnicity. And they identify, the USC team with their data experts, distill those kind of complicated, data sets into really nice, easy to read tables that highlight where equity gaps exist, particularly according to problem areas that the staff and faculty have identified as potential bottlenecks to student success at their campus. Like, for instance, not always things you'd always think of, like graduation rates, but perhaps more detailed things like maybe at one campus, the faculty suspect that white students are disproportionately more likely than Latinx students to pass a weeding out course for admissions to the pre-med major. So the USC team would say, all right, let's look at this with data, and they will summarize them in really easy to read tables that don't include a lot of esoteric stars and Latin numerals, as I'm sure all of you are already aware of if you're not math faculty, that can be kind of barriers to understanding what data really mean. And so then the USC team helps the campus team design action plans to address wherever those equity gaps were identified. It's a really cool example. And I also uploaded a paper here by Dr. Estella Ben-Simon and her team. She's the founder of this project. Sorry, I'm not going to down. Here it is. It's a really nice example of successful action research in higher education. So I just wanted to give you that just to keep in the back of your mind, especially if you're interested in equity issues in higher ed. So, okay, so those are the readings. And then in terms of media, again, it's also a pretty quick, only 4.5 minutes, actually. Video for you to watch this week that's required. So Dr. Jean McNiff is a retired professor from the UK, and she's written a number of books on action research. And so this is kind of her reflections and her thoughts on that. And there's also some additional optional longer lectures about action research, but really this week, again, we only have a few readings and sort of supplemental videos because your assignment this week will take a little bit more time if you haven't already started it. So I recorded a supplemental video explaining more background behind the assignment that you can access through this week's announcement or directly from the assignment instruction page in Canvas. So please let myself or Dennis know if you have any questions about the assignment or anything else in the content of this week's module.